Okay, Shavua Tov. Last week I said I was going to do a totally different psalm. I said I was going to do Rananu Tzadikim B'Hashem, which is the psalm we say on Shabbat after we sit down from Hodu L'Hashem Ki Tov Ki L'Olam Chasdo. And in Nusach Sfard, hi, good morning. Rivka, you want to just give, right here, there's another copy. No, pass it back. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. And that's an important, within the extra Psalms of Shabbat and Yom Tov, it's important because it's the last. It like is the, if we were Nusach Sfard, it would be a little bit earlier, but with us, it's right before the Mizmor Shir Yom Shabbos. It's like the last of the additional special Psalms that we add on Shabbat and Yom Tov, but another time. What happened was I went to Shul on Yom HaZikaron, and Yom HaZikaron, Baruch Hashem, was extremely meaningful this year. Rivka and I went in the afternoon. I don't go for the tekes when it's crowded. We went later in the day to Har Herzl, to the military cemetery. I suggested no one's going to remember that I'm saying this now next year, but it's a wonderful thing to do, to go a little bit later in the day, afternoon. Noon is when the major, so we were coming in and all these people were coming out, but you just go around to the different graves and people just tell stories about their children or grandchildren. It's very sad, or parents. But it's the way to spend the day. It really, in many ways, is the way to spend the day. So a friend of mine was coming out, and as I was going in, and he said to me, he's one of the heads of the yeshiva Oraita, and he says to me, Benny Friedman, you didn't see him. I used his phone to call you. My phone died, and he said to me, I took the yeshiva guys, and they're walking around. I have other things I have to leave, but we stopped at a grave, and a mother of one of the young men who had died said to us, "This is my favorite day of the year." And I said, "Oh my God, how is that possible?" So Benny explains. She said to him, "It's the one day of the year when I really feel that the nation is totally unified, and the total nation is totally one. We're all on the same page." Feeling bad, we're not, because there was that alternate program in Tel Aviv, which was interesting because like half a dozen Arabs came, and it was like 2,000 Jews and 20 Arabs, because, some of us may get it, but none of them get it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. But anyways, it was, so it was a very meaningful thing for him to say. And then we went, there was this woman that was telling us about her son. And when she finished speaking, she said, "I don't think I could celebrate Yom Ha'atzmaut without coming here to give thanks and to appreciate. And this is my preparation for Yom Ha'atzmaut." For many of us, the transition is difficult. However, the concept is very, very powerful, that how can we celebrate before we give thanks to those who made it all possible? And it was just very powerful. But in Shul that morning, I looked in the back of the Siddur, and remember from year to year. And Baruch Hashem, should I turn off the tape for this? Baruch Hashem, I wasn't using an art scroll. I was using a Koran, and it's a Zionist Siddur. So in the back of it, they have Seder Tefillot Shacharit LeYom HaZikaron. That what do you add on Yom HaZikaron? So of course, the minyan that I was at said, the Azkara, so the Kel Malay, for all those, for the 24,000 plus who have passed away in our wars and in our terrorism, during our existence. But there is a minhag to recite Psalm 9. And I didn't remember that. And I'm reading Psalm 9, Tehillim Tet, and I'm saying, boy, we should really go through this. And I don't think we'll make it through. I don't think we'll make it through this week. We'll probably have to finish it next week. But it's just a very powerful statement, and according to Rabbanut Harashit, it is the minhag to recite this at the end of davening on Yom HaZikaron, and I think I think therefore it behooves us to take a look at it as well.
They had a siren that day.
Yes, yeah. There's two sirens on Yom HaZikaron, one at night. And one at night, Rivka and I went, we're in the apartment. Well, you don't want to be in the apartment, for the siren. So we walked over to Tachana Rishona. And so it was nice. We're standing there with dozens of other people. And then I caught a minion from Myriv there. It is indeed special.
It's the day when we're all together.
Yep. Which is sadly not common enough. Here. I left some at the desk, but here, there you go. Hi. You didn't miss a verse. All you missed was my introduction. But we're doing Psalm 9 because the Rabbanut has said, I don't know what the right word is, said that we should recite it on Yom HaZikaron. And so because of that, and we know during this period, we're not only thinking about the Chaylim, we're still thinking about the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva. This time period is the time for this kind of contemplation. And so we're going to take a look at this poem. This poem is very, very difficult. The individual psukim aren't that bad except for the first. It's going to take us a while to get through the first. But there are a lot of, how should I say this, modern scholars, is that the right word? There are a lot of people that look at this poem, and it wasn't just moderns, who look especially at the first verse and say, people have touched up this poem since the time of King David. Okay? And this is one of the poems that everybody attributes to David HaMelech, and we're going to talk about that. It's not anonymous. It says Mizmor LaDavid. But the problem is twofold. Number one, when you look at the poem, I didn't highlight it. Maybe I should have. The poem starts off seeming to have an aleph bet to it, but the aleph bet falls apart as you go through the poem. So some people say, it got later edited, and that's why we don't have the full aleph bet. I don't think so, and you'll see why in a couple of minutes. But they really complain about the first verse. Lamanatseach, we know what Lamanatseach means. Lamanatseach means for the conductor, okay? Or there's an alternative. Most people say for the conductor, that means it's musical. Mizmor means it was sung. Okay, so we know there's a musical component to it, which wasn't true of every psalm. Some of them were just a shir, which in biblical Hebrew means a poem. Okay, but a lot of the Meforshim have trouble with the next three words: Almut Lavan. Okay, now I said Lavan, and you're going to see Laban, and you're going to see a lot of different interpretations, and they say that this was monkeyed with over the ages. Rashi brings down 7 commentaries on this verse. And I'm going to quickly read the Rashi to you, okay? Highlighting things that I'm going to use as go through the poem. And then I want to read something from Rav Hirsch on this one line. And the problem is we don't know what this Laban or Lavan is. And we don't know what Almut is. We know the word Almavet, one word, 2 words into one, can mean perhaps immortal, or it could mean a musical tone or a musical motif. And some people say that the Lavan was really the word naval turned around. So it had a sad music that was played on a naval. A naval was a type of harp or lyre. I don't know the difference. Okay, a harp or lyre. Okay. However, well, let's see what the Meforshim say. And so Rashi begins. Yesh potrim al mavet or al mot levan or leben Al Meit Beno Avshalom. That some people say that David HaMelech said this poem when his son Absalom died. And we know from Shmuel Bet, even though Absalom threw David HaMelech out, David HaMelech had to run away for his life to the Transjordan. Nevertheless, he loved his son very, very much. And when he died, he started the Kina, Absalom, Absalom, my son, Absalom, whom I loved. So some people say he wrote this as a dirge or a eulogy or elegy after the death of Avshalom. But he says, "V'lo yitachein." I don't agree. I don't think that's true. Okay. Because it says le ben v'lo haben. Ve'en lo b'mizmor edut v'zichron la'ametz zeh hapitron. And there's nothing in the poem that will allow us to say, to strengthen the concept that that's the interpretation. Okay? So, number one, out the window. Okay, number two. V'yesh potrim almot lavan navel. That it's not lavan or laban, it is, it's flip it around, okay? V'zelo yitachein lafochet et Hashem. That's not true either, to flip around. I'm sorry, did you get a copy of the... On the back, okay. And I don't like that either. Okay? V'ra'iti b'mesora hagdola shehi teva achat sharei chibur la. Okay, that the word al-mavet should be not al-mot or al-mavet. It should be one word, al-mavet, and that word appears in two other songs. Okay. And so either it means beyond death, which means to be, eternal, to be, supernatural in that way, or it's a musical note, a sad musical note. And it appears, and we're not sure. It's one of those terms that's once it's at the end of a poem, we think it means, we're not sure. And once at the beginning of a song, okay? Then he says, there's Menachem and Donash, who are two great scholars, mostly in terms of Dikduk, that preceded Rashi by a century or two. And he says they give their interpretations, but I don't like those either. But he's going to quote them at the end. I think that Rashi added it, or someone added their Perushim at the end. But Rashi says, I don't like their interpretations. But let's take a look at what they are, because I'll save Rashi for last. Okay. Umenachem patar al mavet, one word, okay. Laben niginot, it's a niggin, it's tunes, okay. And so he goes for the musical interpretation, and again that's Menachem ibn Labrut, and he doesn't like that. And then he says Donash poter Laben shem adam. It was a specific person that David killed. I read this poem as, according to Donish, I read this poem as a song of victory over a major character that David HaMelech had killed. Mitzudat David brings down that the Bain guy is Goliath. And that he's referred to as Ish Beinayim, the man in between. And the reason he's called the Ish Beinayim, the man in between, is because he stood between the camp of the Jews. We're talking about in Emek HaElah. Everybody know what Emek HaElah is? Anybody take the back road to Beit Shemesh, or ever go the back way towards Kiryat Gat or Beit Guvrin in the back there? It's beautiful. It's worth going down there, and that's where the battle took place. And you can always know you're there because that's got the major collection of satellite dishes for the country. So you know you're there. Oh, it's here. And the reason the satellite dishes are there is the same reason the battle took place there. It's a valley road in the middle of hills. The Plishtim, the bad guys, had chariots, and they wanted to get to the interior. So they needed a flat road to get into the mountains, get deep into the mountains to attack either Hebron or Beit Lechem at the time. We're not sure which direction, because the end of the valley goes in two ways. The route on your right goes south to Hebron, and the route, which was King David's capital later, but King David wasn't king yet, or to the left it goes to Beit Lechem. Remember, Yerushalayim wasn't Jewish yet. So there was either one of those directions. We don't know where the Plishtim were going, okay? But they wanted that valley as a staging area because it was flat. And that's the same reason that the antennas are there. There's no interference because the hills block, a lot of other, electrical messages and things, whatever. Okay. I have no idea if what I said is true, but that's what I've been told. Okay. So he says it's a certain man, and he doesn't know who it is. Okay? And when you read the poem, we're going to mention this, whether it's Goliath or another enemy, that it's talking about victory over our enemies does fit in to the poem when we start reading it inside. But what does Rashi himself say? I apologize. I skipped one. He brings down the Pesikta. Pesikta is a parish from the time of the Gaonim, written in 7th, 8th centuries. And it says, She'inyan mitabir ba'amalek, that the poem is talking about the eventual victory over Amalek. And now Rashi's own pshat. Va'omer ani. This is what I say. Lametzeach al mot laben o lavan, shir zed la atid lavo. This is a poem about the future. Yemot HaMashiach. This is a time that's still coming. Hasn't happened yet. David HaMelech is foreseeing the future. Sheyit laben yaldutan, that their children, our great-great-grandchildren, will be bleached. They'll be purified. That's why I said Lavan, okay? Because that's Rashi's pshat, that our kids will be as pure as snow, will be bleached from sin. Now, he doesn't mean that he's not talking about our, swarthiness. Yes?
Does Rashi often bring all those perushim of others and say?
No, it's rare. It's not unusual to bring another, but to bring 6 others is very unusual, which means Rashi wasn't very sure of himself. The more answers you get, that means the less sure we are of what the correct pshat is. Let me go a tiny bit further in Rashi, then I want to read to you what Hirsch said. Sheyit ben Yaldutan v'Shichrutan shel Yisrael, and the Shichror, the final freeing. Okay? I like the word Shichror because we used it in the army. What does it mean? What does Shichror mean in the army? It means he got out. I got out. I'm free. That's not what the word was originally used for. The original word was usually used for prison. I didn't feel that way personally about the army, but other people did. But so when you got out of the army, you got a Shichror. Okay, you got a pass. In English, you called it a pass, but in Hebrew, I got freed. I got okay. Shel Yisrael. V'tiglet tzidkatam, and finally there will be revealed their righteousness. V'tikarev yeshuatam, and there will be a bringing close the Yeshua, the final salvation. Sheyimche Amalek v'zaro, which will wipe out Amalek, because there's a reference to our enemies, specifically Amalek, in the poem. I don't know if we're going to get there today. We'll finish it next week, but we'll see the poem does get to wiping out the bad guys, and there's no guy badder than Amalek in our world. And then he says, the Almavet stuff, that's Hashem Klishir, Sheshmo Almavet. He doesn't say it's a musical note like most. He says it's a musical instrument, and I have no idea what it is. I have no idea what what musical instrument it is, whether it's a wind instrument or usually when we see instruments in Tehillim, we put them into three categories. They're either wind instruments, okay, or they're string instruments, or they're percussion. That's they didn't have any trumpets or but those are the three that we have: percussion, wind, and I don't know what the amavet is, but he claims that that's here, and when it's used later in Tehillim, also it meant a musical instrument. Okay, fine. Let's take a look in the same mood, in the same basic way as Rashi. This is what Hirsch says. David presents to us here an all-encompassing overview of the entire historical experience of Israel as a whole and of her many heroes as individuals. Now, we could read this poem. We're not going to do it. It would take forever, okay, as going through different incidents in Jewish history. That each time we talk about defeating an enemy or overcoming a hardship, it's a reference, going to Hirsch, to a specific time, a specific event within Jewish history. This is a psalm which is eternal. Well, which one isn't? But okay, but it means its message is not tied to a specific time period, is what I believe he means. I didn't check the original German, which wouldn't have helped me anyways. Okay, speaking of a past, present, and future, it is dedicated La Ben. It is dedicated La Ben. It's okay. Do you want me to get it? You got? Okay. It is dedicated to La Ben. What does La Ben mean? To the Son of God, Israel. So it's dedicated to the Son, okay? This is way before the Christians. Don't even think that. Dedicated to the Son, meaning B'ni B'chori Yisrael, right? My firstborn is the Jewish nation. So that's what it's talking about. Who enjoys a especially close filial relationship with Avinu Shebashamayim. Thus, none of Israel's enemies will survive. And his list is Naval. Now, some people say that the word Lavan is not you flip it around to Naval. Naval was the husband of one of King David's wives. Elisheva, thank you. Was not Elisheva. No, it was Abigail, sorry. It was the wife of that, but thank you for getting me in the right shvung there. So he kills Naval because Naval was planning to ambush him and his people, and he had to kill Naval. Then he marries Abigail, who warned him and fed him with his army, his small army of around 300 men. So that this was, so Naval is a bad guy, maybe the Lavan is that, but in the list he says Avshalom. There's a king Lavan, who we don't know who he is. Okay, Goliath, Amalek, Esav. God judges them all, Amavet, for death. So in other words, all the bad guys are judged Al-Mavet, to receive death. Israel alone survives all catastrophes. Israel alone being Al-Mavet, beyond death, eternal. So it could, now it's the whole thing is upon. Can it mean for death or beyond death? Al-Mavet, to be eternal. Immortal, above death, living in Olamot, in the two worlds, this world and the world to come. Thus we maintain that Almut and Alama is a young person, means eternal youth. The Jewish nation has eternal youth. Israel, Eretz Yisrael, Medinat Yisrael, is both the oldest and newest, most youthful nation on earth simultaneously. It's just unbelievable, especially, I was just talking about, going through Emek HaElah, and then you've got all the satellite dishes, right? Connecting Israel to the world, and less than a kilometer away is with David fought Goliath, is all these archaeological sites. okay? And running right by it is Derech HaLamed Hey and Kibbutz HaLamed Hey, which of course are dedicated to the memory of the 35 members of the Palmach who died trying to reinforce the Gush, and they died during the War of Independence, or just before. There was during the war called Milchemet HaKvishim, right? The War of the Roads, because we had to supply Jerusalem, we had to supply Gush Etzion, and the 35 were killed somewhere in that area, a little bit further, closer to Gush Etzion. But it's like all of it is right there. You've got the future, you've got the present, you've got the past, all in like that same area. Which is like characteristic of the poem. This is the secret essence of our immortality. Finally, and this will be final. We'll start looking at the psukim now. Finally, the root ayin lamed mem means something else. Ne'elam, hidden, disappear. Where is he? Right? We do that with the little kids, right? He disappeared. Okay. But it means hidden, secret. Finally, almut can mean secrecy from the word ha'alem, concealment. God is forever behind the scenes of world history, manipulating it so that immortal Israel shall always overcome all odds, however awesome they may be. Which, of course, sounds like an introduction to talking about Milchemet Sheshet HaYamim. We're not talking about the 6-Day War, but of course we felt that way in Milchemet HaKomamiyut, in the War of Independence as well. And so, it's like Hirsch writing. Hirsch died in 1880. I don't know exactly when he wrote his Perush on Tehillim, obviously earlier, but he's predicting that in 100 years, the stuff that's going to happen here in Eretz Yisrael to become Medinat Yisrael. And so it really, first of all, when I read it on Yom HaZikaron, and then I started looking at some of the portion, I said, wow, this really is appropriate for us to study now during Sfirat HaOmer, when during this time period, we think so much about those who have given up their lives for everything that we hold dear. And that, of course, is Yom HaZikaron. That's the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva. But also, it was during this time, the end of Iyar and into Sivan, when the Crusaders, the first crusade, marched through the centers of Northern Europe, in Northern France and Northern Germany, and wiped out whole communities, including Balei Tosfot, including students of Rashi, people who are quoted in our Tosfot in Shas. And so this time of year is a good time to read a poem like this, because when you read a poem like this, the first thought that goes through your mind is all of these wonderful people did not die in vain. And it starts off, this concept starts off in the very next pasuk. Odeh Hashem. Now, what's fascinating about this poem, so many things are fascinating about this poem, but if you notice, if you look down the page, I highlighted Yud Kei Vav Kei in the poem. Yud Kei Vav Kei is used 9 times in the poem. And once, and I underlined it in verse 18, once and only once is the word Elokim used. So we have Shem Hashem 10 times. That's not surprising. 10, means so many things. So at the deep road, then of course the 10 Ma'amarot, the world is created with 10 statements. 10 is an important word in Jewish tradition, meaning all-encompassing. When we use the word 10, we mean this is a reference to everything. Okay, the whole kit and caboodle. But it's fascinating, a poem that mentions justice and mentions punishment only has the word Elokim once, which is the name Hashem uses for Midat Hadin, for God's attribute of justice and judgment, but uses Yud Kei Vav Kei 9 times, which is God's attribute of mercy, compassion, love. When you look in the Sfirot, okay, it's the left side and the right side. I don't like to use that terminology because I'm a lefty, and it makes the lefties look bad. That left is like the harsh side, and right? Okay.
Lefty or right. I hope not otherwise.
Depends on the issue. Depends on the issue.
Forget it.
I used to feel, no, growing up, I used to always feel I was a liberal,
So did we all.
yeah, and I still think on many social issues, to me, my being left was sort of like, like Joe Lieberman left, you're left on social issues, but when it comes to things like defense and it comes to, how we, then you got to be right, then you have to be, and I still think, I should, this is not nice. I'm going to say it I'm going to say it though. I used to always vote for Mafdal. And I don't know who to vote for anymore. This year I wasted my vote, for the party that didn't make it, and because I thought he was the heir of Mafdal, Oliver Shalom, right? Okay. I didn't vote for Mafdal because they were right wingers vis-a-vis the Shtachim, even though I lived in the Shtachim. I voted them because they really presented social issues, education, healthcare. Those were their issues. Besides, we have to keep Yehud and Shomron, okay? And and I always liked that. So am I a liberal? I don't know anymore.
It was before liberalism was a religion.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. But I think I think the problem is, Rivki, I think both sides have become too extreme. I mean, we've lost the middle. And that's so sad because there was a lot of good in the middle too. Okay. No. Don't apologize. Okay. Odeh Hashem b'chol libi. Wow. This pasuk, to me, that day, going back to Wednesday into Thursday night, that's how I felt at the end of Yom HaZikaron. Here we are saying how much we love these young men and how much we miss, and women, and how much we miss them. And we didn't get there. We saw some of the newest graves, but someone else who was in that same area said later that they saw Baal Over Shalom's kever that doesn't have the stone yet because his remains were taken to Har Herzl. And it's like, yes, we love them, but we still, because of what they sacrificed, we have the Medina. And Odeh Hashem b'chol libi, with all my heart, I thank you. I acknowledge Kadosh Baruch Hu. In my sadness, I still feel this tremendous modeh ani lefanecha. Yeah, in my grandfather's wildest dreams, he wouldn't think that he'd have a grandson living in Yerushalayim Eretz Kodesh. They wouldn't. Allah aladat. We have so much. That doesn't mean we're not sad. Too. But the sadness can't block out the Odeh Hashem b'chol libi. And think of David HaMelech. You think of David HaMelech, he just buried his beloved son Avshalom, who did depose him. And now he's back in Yerushalayim, rebuilding his melucha, his dynasty. And he's still sad. But he says, oh, I'm thankful to you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It was terrible how we got to this turn of events, but I'm so thankful I got here. And I can't but acknowledge my thanks to you, Odeh. And I don't like a lot of the translations. I think acknowledge is probably my favorite translation. I don't know. Okay, let me just see how. I will thank. I don't think thank isn't bad. I saw I will praise someplace else. I think it's really acknowledgement. I think hoda'ah is, although thank works, but I think it really, in a context like this, means a stronger cognitive, activity. I've thought about it, and I have great acknowledgement, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for what you've done. Mikol libi, with all of my heart. And I don't keep it inside. My entire insides, My entire insides is filled with this appreciation of Kadosh Baruch Hu for everything that we have and you've done for us. And therefore, asapra kol ni'vlotecha. I can't stop myself from telling the whole world about your wonders. You know, I'm a coward in terms of making changes in davening. You know, adding a kapitel Tehillim at the end of davening, I have no problem. But the problem, like I said, I'm a coward. I don't say Alanisim on Yom Ha'atzmaut and Yom Yerushalayim. I probably should. Sometimes what I do is, as an expression of my cowardice, because I'm afraid, changing the matbeya of Chazal, and the Chazal say their rules are don't make additions in the first three or final three beyond the additions they made. So in other words, it's like, so sometimes I say Alanisim in Shema Kolenu. Because Shema Kolenu is like an opportunity to say what you want, right? Or I say it before I step back, before Yehiyul Ratzon. So because it is miracles and wonders. I wasn't there for Purim, and I wasn't there for Hanukkah. But you know what? When I read Megillat Esther, and I'm moved, and I love it. I don't think there was anything more remarkable than War of Independence or the 6-Day War. I don't think it was any greater. Maybe Hanukkah, because there was a nace of the oil. Okay. But when you look at Purim, I think the niece Gesundheit. I think my mother would say, you must agree with me. Okay. The miracles were at least as obvious, perhaps more, in Milchemet HaKol Miyut and in Milchemet Sheshet Yamim. So why not say it? Because I'm a coward. Like I said, that's why I don't say it. But I try to get it in there, in either Shema Kolenu before I step back. I'm sorry?
Is there a special law?
Yeah. If there are Rinat Yisrael and Koren have machzorim for Yom Ha'atzmaut and Yom Yerushalayim, and it's in there. Yeah, and it's a very beautiful paragraph talking about the Alanisim. First two lines are the same, but then it talks about the Nisim and the Niflaot, and it's true. And so I'm asapra. I feel the obligation to tell others and to talk about it and to celebrate it. And this goes on. Esmecha ve'e'altza boch. I am joyous. How do you translate this? I am joyous. It's like you need a thesaurus, because you need two words. You need two words for joy. I will rejoice and exult in you. Okay? Simcha is the word we use generally for spiritual joy. Physical happiness is usually more like gila. Rina is singing joyously. Gila is like physical joy, happy, smiley. Esmecha is more of a spiritual, okay? But what is the next word? Eltza. So some people say that this is related to the word aliza. And aliza, even if you don't know My Fair Lady, is a name in not just in Hebrew but in English. Aliza, alitza. Okay, alitza, and it means, again, it's another word for happiness. And the Malbim says, where this word root alatz comes from? It comes from chalatz. It's related to chalitza. What my joy is about having been freed, released. It's the joy that one gets because the ayin and the chet, not for us. We should bring it. We should bring somebody from Yemen here. They would tell us, okay, because the ayin and the chet are pronounced very similarly. Okay, we don't do it. From Europe, we just say the ayin is like the aleph for us, but the ayin is like the chet for Temanim. So then you see, it's like chalatz, okay? It's to mean, I feel a release. This is a beautiful word. In the context that we've been describing, that whether it's David HaMelech or it's us, that we're celebrating a release from a tremendous amount of lachatz. We've talked about this in this class before. It's an amazing phenomenon in the Hebrew language. Hebrew is so amazing that there are a number of words that have the same letters that if you juggle the letters, you get the opposite. So chalatz is the opposite of lachatz. Just like oneg is the opposite of nega. It happens there are about a dozen of them in the Hebrew language that are just fantastic. The lachatz was, so David HaMelech, we don't know. Was he writing this about having beaten Goliath? Was he writing this about, his son Avshalom dying? There's another parish that he wrote it. He wrote it when the baby died for Bathsheba. Remember, their first child was a baby that passed away before they had Shlomo Melech. Okay, and so the pressure is off. I was recently reading. Somebody was talking about nature, and they said, nature abhors a vacuum. You know that expression, nature. But the person who was writing this went on to say, nature also abhors pressure. Nature wants us to reach an equilibrium. And just like nature, the air rushes in if there's a vacuum, the air rushes out if there's pressure. It's the same thing. And it's a release. David HaMelech felt this sense of release. Well, didn't we? In Milchamat HaKomamiyut? Didn't we feel a tremendous sense of release? The pressure on the Jewish people in the previous decade was perhaps unprecedented in Jewish history. Perhaps. I mean, it's hard. We've had so many tragedies. It's hard to grade them, but the Holocaust is up there. The only terms of numbers and effect, the only other tragedy in Jewish history that approaches the Holocaust was Mered Bar Kokhba, because they were both about a third of the Jewish people were killed. Who am I to grade them? But the lachatz was amazing, and now we have a state. People can go someplace. People can breathe again. Jews can live. Okay, the Rav talks about the 6 gifts of Eretz Yisrael to the Jewish people, and this is just one of them. I mean, it's one of that we now had a place to go. We now had a place to go. Azamra Shimcha Elyon. I'm going to sing about it. And Yom Ha'atzmaut morning after we went to davening, and we sang Hallel, and then we were getting ready to go to the obligatory barbecue, right? It's like we didn't want to be over the mitzvot aseh of having a barbecue on Yom Ha'atzmaut, but we just put on YouTube. We just found out all these songs, and it was nice to listen to the old Zionist songs, and we had Hatikva in both versions. With Eretz Avotenu v'Tifartenu was the original before they changed the words in 48. It was just nice. We're going to sing about it. We're just going to sing about it. And because when we think about Eretz Yisrael, my soul and my voice want to sing about it. B'shuv oivai achor. On Yom HaZikaron in the afternoon, Rivka and I watched and it's worth watching. And it was like the right thing to do on Yom HaZikaron. It was also on YouTube. Martin Gilbert. Anybody know Martin Gilbert? A very famous English historian. And he's famous. He wrote books on historical geography, was a lot of his stuff, maps. But he did in 1998 a 2-hour special about the War of Independence. It was the 50th anniversary, and for the History Channel. He did it for BBC, and in America it was on the History Channel, and now it's on YouTube. And it was just fascinating. But he keeps showing maps. And how does the war begin? You see all these arrows, different colored arrows coming in from Lebanon, from Syria, from Jordan, from Egypt, of course, one up the coast and one towards Beersheba. And as the war goes on, what happens to the arrows? Beshuv oivai achor. As the war goes on, it's like the arrows just, go in the opposite direction. And it's like, you're looking at the map when you read the pasuk. As my enemies returned backwards from threatening me. And it was just, wow, this is really, David HaMelech was like looking at the same maps I'm looking at. It's like, it's very cool. And of course, that's also true of the battle with Goliath, which this may commemorate. Remember? A lot of different options here. Okay? Who are the Plishtim? The Plishtim were Greeks. What's the word Plishtim mean that the Palestinians foolishly took as their name? What's the word mean? Invaders. So in other words, what was happening in Ema Ka'elah? It was one of those arrows from on the map coming into our territory. They had the coast. They weren't satisfied with the coast. They wanted our hilly area too. And they were invading. And then it says, Beshuv oyavai achor. We kicked them out of our territory. And we gained some breathing space. Okay? Yikashlu v'yovdu mipanecha. They yikashel. They have stumbled. And they are lost before you. In other words, the word stumbled is a great word. I mean, as I grow older, I stumble more. It's like the cracks on the sidewalk seem to get bigger, right? We stumble. But what does stumble mean? Think about it. Stumble means you should have succeeded. It's like, you think of, you're in the race, and it's like the person in front stumbled. They had it in the hand, but they stumbled. So it's like that fits in with the situation where the bad guys had the upper hand. The bad guys had the upper hand, and they stumbled and fell and were lost before you. Before you, God, capital Y. It's like under any other circumstances, without you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Plishtim would have been in either Beit Lechem or Hebron by nightfall. Right? Or in any other circumstances, there would have been no Jewish Jerusalem. There just wouldn't have been. The Jordanian, Arab Legion was much stronger than anything we had. They stumbled and fell, mipanecha. Not before us, but before you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You were there to make sure that it didn't happen. Why? Ki asita mishpatai v'dini. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wasn't wearing armor when this happened. Like, when did God wear armor, according to the Midrash? Hashem ish milchama. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was wearing armor at Kriyat Yam Suf. When the Jews, it says, Zeh Keli Vanvehu, that the Jews saw HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So according to the Midrash, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Ish Milchama. At that moment, he was wearing armor, Kavyachol, right? Whatever that means. But what was HaKadosh Baruch Hu wearing now? Ki asita mishpati v'dini, judicial robes. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was wearing judicial robes. HaKadosh Baruch Hu weighed our merit against that of the bad guys, and we won. Now, so it wasn't about military victory, because militarily we shouldn't have won. It was HaKadosh Baruch Hu doing justice, mishpat and din. What's mishpat? The judicial process. What's din? the carrying out of the sentence. Okay, mishpat and din took place, and we had finally been vindicated by Kadosh Baruch Hu. And that's what was going on. That's what was going on with David HaMelech, and that's what was going on in Milchamot Kamamiyut and Milchamot Sheshet HaYamim. Yashavta likisei shofet tzedek. You were sitting on the throne of justice in this point, okay? Now, it's a problem over which kisei Kadosh Baruch Hu was sitting on. And this is an issue for Psalm 47 on Rosh Hashanah, because on Rosh Hashanah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was sitting in one chair, and then we blow the shofar, and Hashem Ya'aleh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, B'truah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu ascends while we're blowing the shofar to a higher seat. According to the Midrash, what are the two seats David HaMelech is talking about in that psalm? The seat of justice in the beginning. We start with Elokim, and the HaKadosh Baruch Hu rises to Yud Kei Vav Kei. So after we blow shofar, we should breathe a sigh of relief. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has judgments over, and we were found, or we were cleansed, if not found innocent. We were cleansed by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's like the idea, okay? So kisei here, I have a little bit of concern which one it is, but I think even though we're using Yud Kei Vav Kei in this part of the poem, I think still HaKadosh Baruch Hu is sitting on the seat of justice, that he's enthroned as the judge, sitting on the bench, or whatever the right term is, okay, for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, but kisei is a metaphor for how HaKadosh Baruch, there is no chair, I don't believe. I mean, some people say there is, but I'm not into that. Okay, it's a metaphor for how HaKadosh Baruch Hu is relating to us. So which seat is it? The context of this pasuk is it's the seat of mishpat. It's the judgment seat. Okay. Ga'arta goyim. Now, what does ga'ar mean?
Isn't that a race?
Yeah. Oh, I'm from Boston. It's hard for me to get that R in there. Ga'ar. It's hard for me to get that. I'm sorry. It's like park your car. It's like, those R's, they just, yes, it's a resh. But I this is like embarrassing. I'm sorry. I just have trouble getting the resh. Ga'ar. It's hard for me to, I guess it's a speech impediment from What does ga'ar mean? We use it in modern Hebrew. It means to rebuke, but many commentaries here say it means to defeat. But I'm not sure. I have one translation in front. Let me just check how this does it. He says destroyed. He says and I've seen a lot of destroyed, and I actually saw in Robert Alter, who's a bit of a biblical linguist, more than a bit of, and he says here it means better destroyed. I'm not sure. I like the normal use of the term ga'ar, which means to rebuke. They scold. That's like rebuke. Yeah, scold. Got their comeuppance. They were told off. They thought that they had, a golden pass, to win, and they got their comeuppance. Okay. Ga'arta goyim, ibadita Russia. You destroyed the Russia. Now, so the nations around got rebuked, but the specific bad guy got destroyed. Okay. Shama machita la'olam ve'ed. Destroy. You wiped them out forever. Many Meforshim say that this is specifically a reference to Amalek, that Amalek slipped in there. David got to fight Amalek too. Amalek was still around. Amalek is always around. Okay, but he got to fight Amalek, who was, genetically Amalek, We get to fight Amalek, who is, conceptually
Still here?
I'm not. Yeah, they're still here. Amalek is still here, but it may be an ideology rather than a genetic trait anymore. It's a big machloket. Okay, the definition that the Rav used, Rabbi Soloveitchik used for Amalek is Amalek are those anti-Semites. Look, there's a lot of anti-Semites, but not every anti-Semite is necessarily Amalek. Okay, okay. Like there are gradations of good guys, there are gradations of bad guys. Amalek is a bad guy who will fight against the Jews even when it's not to his advantage. Even when it would have been better. And so you saw that with, of course, Hitler. When at the end of the war, Hitler had, limited resources, but yet he was dedicating those resources to the destruction of the Jews. The most famous case was with the trains. He needed trains to move troops. Instead, he was moving Holocaust victims. It was just crazy. It was just crazy. And he needed the Jews themselves as workers. He was killing them. And it made no sense. So that's Amalek. You could say that Stalin killing off all the Jewish doctors, was not exactly to his benefit when he had a heart attack, and he killed he killed the best cardiologists in the country. So in other words, when the behavior of the person is antithetical to their own welfare, that's Amalek, that's the Russian, okay? And what we're saying here is an Amalek idea. Shamam, wiped out, destroyed, made desolate. Machita, you erased. La'olam fa'ed, and of course that is the eventual fate of those who buy into the ideology called Amalek, that they will be wiped out eternally, that they will have no portion in either the world to come or in the great vision of what's coming up. Let's see if we can sneak in one more pasuk, okay? Ha'oyev tamu charavot lenetzach. The enemy is ended, comes to an end. Charvot. Now, charvot, either, it depends on whether you're saying charvot or chorvot. The punctuation here makes a big difference. Chorvot, which the way I have it on my page, means destroyed, like the chor of a synagogue. Okay? Some people say that it's from the word charavot. Their swords. They'll no longer have weapons. Their swords will be destroyed. Okay? I don't know. It can go either way. Again, this poem presents a lot of those kinds of issues, but whether they'll be wiped out and destroyed forever or their implements for war will be gone, it's lanetzach. It's lanetzach. It's forever. Va'arim nahashta avad zichram hema. And their cities, their power, their roots, they'll just be gone. And still when you go around Eretz Yisrael, the Medina, you still have place names that are from the bad guys. But as time goes on, they'll just be gone. They'll just be gone. It's happening, slowly, but it's happening. And they won't even be a memory because that's what's happening. And so next week, Be'ez Hashem, we'll finish the poem. We didn't get to the two famous psukim in the poem, by the way. There are two psukim that figure in our tefillot that are embedded in here. But I wanted to get in the Yom HaZikaron and Sfirat HaOmer material first, and we'll finish Be'ez Hashem, the poem, next week. So if you want to keep the sheet, that's great. If you don't, then give them back either to me or to the front desk so we can have them for next week. Shavua Tov to everybody.